Larry.
Sir.
Oh, you know, that the press lied about the losses of the Ukraine war. Do you think that's the same thing in Gaza? Israel, do you think the Israel army is losing a lot of soldiers and they are lying about the real numbers? What is your opinion?
Yeah, no, this has been just a series of lies starting with October 7th. So the Israeli account of what happened on October 7th is that Hamas were a bunch of crazed terrorists who came across just to rape and pillage and kill babies and rape women. No, that's not what happened. Hamas didn't kill any babies, and they didn't rape any women. And you know how you know they didn't rape any women? Because they were involved with a military operation. And when you're in that kind of military operation, you've got a lot of adrenaline flowing through your body. That amount of adrenaline makes it impossible for a man to maintain an erection. So, okay, there's not going to be any rape, number one. Number two, the Israelis were caught completely unawares. The Golani Brigade, one of the most elite units in the Israeli armed forces, the Hamas killed 72 of them on October 7th in a firefight. You know, Hamas military kicked their ass, beat them, straight up fight. And the Golani Brigade now, the KIAs are in excess of 25% of their total strength. And when you add the wounded in action, they're at about 55% strength. Now that was military defeat. Then once the Israelis, who had ignored the intelligence, they had intelligence warning them that this was going to happen, they ignored it. Partly because the intelligence analysts who were telling them that it was coming were women. And they did, the Israeli guys generally are pretty arrogant and, sexist. What does this chick know? I'm not going to listen to her. Well, boom, Hamas launched this operation that they'd been planning for months and training for months. And so when Israel reacted in a panic, they scrambled a bunch of attack helicopters, Apaches. You got all of these people who are fleeing from this rock concert. All of those vehicles are shot up by Israeli helicopters. Hamas didn't have helicopters. Hamas had paragliders. So the paragliders weren't shooting rockets. They were not burning cars. They did not have RPGs that were destroying these cars. That was all on Israel. Initially, Israel came out and said, they killed 1,400. And then they said, okay, well, 200 of the dead are Hamas fighters. The other 1,200, that's what Hamas did. No, I guarantee you that Israel may have been responsible for the majority of the Israeli civilians killed that day, that they were not killed deliberately by Hamas. Hamas's goal was to grab as many hostages as possible, take them back across the border to use them as bargaining chips. Mm-hmm. And Israel killed a bunch of its own people to prevent that from happening. It's not my opinion, we got multiple Israeli eyewitnesses. This has been reported extensively in the Israeli press and Haaretz that the Israelis, for example, they took the press to some of these kibbutz, and in one kibbutz they showed this house that was just destroyed. And this is what Hamas did. Hamas didn't have any weapon systems that could do that. And one of the survivors of one of those homes testified it was the Israeli tanks that did that. And Israeli tanks killed women and children. So I used to refer to the Israeli armed forces as the Israeli Defense Force. No longer. They're not worthy of that name. I call them the Israeli Occupation Force. Their soldiers are undisciplined. They're poorly trained, poorly led. The officers are incompetent. And we saw that again just the other day when Israel shot and killed 3 of its own hostages. These guys had military, they had a military background, had been reservists. I'm not sure if they were still active duty, but they understood how dangerous their fellow Israeli soldiers were. That's why they stripped off their shirts. One had a white flag. They come out, and a soldier started shooting, or a so-called soldier, a thug with a gun. Shot and killed 2 of them. The other guy back into a house is yelling, "Help, help," shouting in Hebrew. He comes out, still shouting in Hebrew, and another one of these clowns with an Israeli uniform on shoots and kills him. So that right away tells you there is no discipline in the Israeli army. There is no rule of engagement stipulating you do not shoot a person not carrying a weapon. In fact, the rules were, if they come out, if they're in a contested area, shoot them. Doesn't matter if they're men, women, children, if they're carrying a weapon or not, shoot them. Yeah. And that's why the other day, it wasn't just this one unit. This wasn't just a group of bad apples. This is throughout the Israeli occupation force. A sniper shot 2 women going into the Catholic Church in Gaza. And these were, one of the women was well into her early 60s and her mother was in her 80s, shot and killed them. They had no, they don't even look like terrorists. And so this is, what we've seen is one lie after another lie after another lie by Israel. Israel no longer has any credibility. If no matter what they say, it's probably a lie. And so that, how many casualties? I think they've got triple of what they're reporting. I think it's much heavier, and they're so stupid that they keep making these threats that they're going to, if Hezbollah doesn't back off, they're going to go after Hezbollah. Good luck with that, guys.
Oh, yeah.
I dare them to do it, because it will end up to another defeat for the Israeli army.